Hey guys, it's Andy, and today we are going to continue on the rust removal saga. This is part 2 of 3 of the hidden rust removal saga. In part 1, we loosened the worst of the rust and the paint using sodium hydroxide and the spinning flail of death. Today we're going to do the next step, the real chemistry of getting rid of all of the remaining rust and getting all those internal frame rails and cavities ready for paint. The pics here are where we're starting from. So this is where I left off the last time, a cleaned, bare, rusted surface that's been cleaned of all of the existing loose paint and mud and junk, and we are now ready to actually hit it with the rust removal stage. I'm using Rust 911. This is a really concentrated rust removal solution. It mixes 1 gallon into 16 gallons of working solution. I have tried a lot of homemade solutions, phosphoric acid, all sorts of things, and this is by far the most effective and cost-effective solution I found for getting rid of rust. Aside from its effectiveness, one of the best aspects of a chelator like this that I like is that it's not nasty to work with. If you're using a recirculating pump like I do, you will inevitably end up with leaks, spills, and sloshes. And if you spill acid on your floor, it will eat up your floor. Whereas this stuff, it's not toxic, and any spills, you just wash it away. No big deal. It's all good. So what's going on chemically? Chelators don't eat metal the way acids do. Instead, chelators bind to loosely bound metal ions such as those in rusts and form water-soluble complexes that are just simply washed away and taken away in the rinse and left in the rinse. It's the same principle used in all common chelators like EDTA or citrate or gluconate or all the other ones that are used in water treatment. I don't know the exact formula for Rust 911, but I strongly suspect it's some sort of a gluconate. If you want me to go more in depth on the chemistry, leave a comment and I'll make another follow-up video where we'll really explore chelation chemistry and maybe even do some analytical chemistry, try and figure out what the active ingredients here are in Rust 911 and Evaporust. Because chelators target the oxidized iron first, they're far gentler on good steel. However, given enough time, chelators will start to etch bare metal. But that happens much slower than with acids. In fact, after about 30 gallons of pumping this Rust 911 through here in the rockers and so forth, I started noticing my distribution manifold here, which is a black iron pipe, the Rust 911 started slowly eating away at the threaded area here, but that was after literally 30 gallons through a raw iron pipe, and I think that's pretty good. And at the same time, with that 30 gallons, it dissolved a completely unreal amount of rust in the rocker panels, frame rails, and so forth. So the setup I'm using is the same closed loop heated recirculating pump system that I used in the previous video, except now I'm using it for Rust 911. Today we're going to show the actual rust pumping, the rust removal process from beginning to end, a few spinning flail of death shots, and what it looks like now that it's all clean and totally ready for paint. So let's get started with a preparatory step. The frame rails I'm cleaning have a bunch of internal threads, and these are super important and super structural, so I want to protect them. And remember I said that chelators, they're not magic. Give it enough time, they will dissolve good steel, so I want to protect those internal threads. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking a bunch of bolts and then I'm spraying them with a really thick coat of paint so I can drive them into those threads, and that way that'll prevent the Rust 911 from going and attacking those threads. Okay then, let's start pumping. All right, so I have the pipes and distribution manifold all hooked up. So right now I just have water in here to test it and make sure everything is working right. So Looks all right. Don't see any leaks. And then again, I have my little bolts up in those threads just to keep the Rust 911 away from the threads. So we are now ready to add some Rust 911. I have right about 2 gallons in there, so I add 2 cups, and let's do it. Okay, turn the pump on. Looking all right. Rinse this out because it is expensive. All right, I plug the heater in, and then we are just going to let this rip for a while. This is after running for, I don't know, about an hour and a half or so, and that's what the wash looks like. It's turning brown. It's a little bit lower than it was because I had a bit of a leak because I had the hose positioned wrong because it was my fault. But anyway, yeah, so we're starting to turn dark, and it's looking a lot better inside. So let's take a look with the bore scope of where we're at. I've been running this for, I don't know, about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours or so, something like that. So let's take a look at where we're at. Okay. So the liquid is turning brownish. Still not black yet, but yeah, it's definitely pulled quite a bit of rust out of there. Let's take a look with the bore scope and see what it looks like. All right, so we're in the middle of pumping the second round of the Rust 911 through there, and there was still some bit of crusted on rust and so forth. So what I decided to do was use the spinning flail of death inside there, and this is some seriously royally sketchy shit. But as you can tell, this thing is yeah, you just put it in there and it just flails around. I had the camera hooked up, but unfortunately I was an idiot and I forgot to press record, so there's no footage of me running this thing. However, there's some bore scope footage that we're going to take a look at right now, and this is after running the flail through there. And yeah, we can see this really loosened up a lot of the existing caked on, crusted on rust. So, and let's see what comes out. Oh yeah. Look at that sludge coming out from doing the spinning flail of death. Yeah, wow, that really loosened up a lot of crap in there. Okay, so it's coming out clean, and yeah, so that is, that's cool. All right, so look it up, yeah. All right, so I'm gonna go and let this run for a while, and then we'll see what happens. All right, let's empty this thing. Yeah, it does. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna basically fill the tub with water and then just flush water through here just to get it all clean, and then we are done. Now that the Rust 911 has done its job, it's absolutely critical to fully clean the surface completely before painting. Any residue left behind will cause the paint to not adhere properly. Rust 911 is completely water soluble, but if you let it dry, it forms a sticky film that's really hard to remove. So while it's wet, we have to rinse immediately. Here's the process that I've developed that cleans perfectly and prevents flash rusting. First, dump the catch basin and rinse everything with clean water from the hose. Then use that clean water to pump out the entire pump system. Put the hose back up and pump that clean water back through the rails and cavities or whatever areas you're cleaning. Work quickly here. Rust 911 has corrosion inhibitors, but once it's rinsed off, flash rust can start fast. Next, using a spray gun or something else, start flushing all of the cavities with an ammonia water mix. Flush this a lot. We want to remove every last trace of the Rust 911. We use the ammonia for two reasons. A, it raises the pH to a level where flash rust cannot start, and B, it evaporates completely and totally fully. That is super important, to use something that completely evaporates without leaving any residue. Then after you've rinsed with the ammonia water mix and you're totally satisfied there is no remaining Rust 911 in there, put some alcohol into your spray gun and spray that in those cavities. The alcohol will drive out any remaining water, leaving nothing behind, and helps the surface dry quickly. Then follow the alcohol rinse with compressed air, and that's why I made this extendy wand thing for my air gun, so I can get into all those cavities and blow it out super well. Keep blowing compressed air through all those cavities until you're satisfied there is no remaining moisture, and then go ahead and let it dry for a day or so before you paint. After we're done with that, we're left with a perfectly clean bare steel surface that is lightly etched from the Rust 911 that is ideal for paint adhesion. Next time we're going to go over the cavity painting process, and we're going to cover a few critically important tricks for ensuring that we get uniform coverage inside those cavities, and most importantly, so that we don't get pooling and puddling and bad stuff happening to the paint. If you found this content useful in any way, please give me a like and subscribe, and it helps motivate me to keep making these Rust Wars series videos. Okay then, well, thanks for watching, and see you next time.